How certain people, places, and things make us feel is our intuition. Decisions we make, often without certainty, guidance, or logic, is our intuition. And when we listen, we are guided by our soul's deepest desires to our chosen path. I used to lack understanding of my deepest desires and fears and what they meant. I thought maybe there was just something wrong with me, until I began to connect with my authentic self and listen to my inner voice and trust myself. Hello everyone, and welcome to A Safe Space. Today we are going to be talking about listening to your intuition, listening to your inner voice. I'm not sure what I'm going to be titling this video yet, but for now, just going to be talking about how important it is to listen to your intuition and how we tend to neglect our intuition at times without realizing that. And also how we can begin to connect more with that inner voice and listen to that inner voice. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today, and very excited about it because this topic is very close to my heart, because the past few years of my life, going through this spiritual awakening and this healing journey, listening to my intuition has been so important. And there have been many times where I've ignored my intuition or tried to push my intuition under the rug, neglected it, or just didn't even hear it. And here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. Ignoring your intuition is the quickest way to become unhappy, because the insights and the nudges and the guidance that you receive from that inner voice, that's coming from your soul. You may become confused or burdened by the distractions outside of what your soul is telling you, such as society's expectations or your family's expectations, or your perception may be skewed by seeing everything in life as black and white, as this is what you do and this is what you don't do. But because everyone is so uniquely different and has completely different experiences, emotions, desires, passions, there's almost never going to be a right path and a wrong path. When it comes to morality, of course that's different, because we always want to live in a way that is respectful to others and respectful to ourselves and not hurting anyone. But when talking about our way of life, how we show up in life, who we are as a person, and things that we decide to invest our time into, sometimes we can easily get clouded by either what we think we're supposed to do or other outside distractions, because there's all this noise on the outside, right? There's always all this noise. But when we quiet the mind and we go within and we really begin to listen to our inner voice, that's direct contact with our soul, with our soul's desires. And when we simply just listen to our inner voice, to our soul, we begin to live in alignment with who we really are at our core. So that's why ignoring your intuition is the quickest way to become unhappy, because when you do that, you are not in alignment with your truth, with your true authentic self. I'm sure there have been times before, I think almost everyone experiences this, which is why I'm making this video. I'm sure there have been times before where you've maybe sacrificed what you really wanted to do in your heart for something that someone else told you that you should do, or simply out of fear. Often fear causes us to ignore our intuition, but that fear can stem from lack of belief and trust in ourselves. So when you ignore your intuition, you neglect your authentic self. And when we live inauthentically, we cannot be happy. So like I said, often this can result from fear, but this can also come from making decisions based off of what's more logical and rational versus how things make us feel. But that's the key component to listening to your intuition and connecting to your authentic self, is observing and realizing how different things make you feel. How does that job make you feel? How does that relationship make you feel? How does that friendship make you feel? How does that food make you feel? How does going out and drinking make you feel? How does that religion or belief make you feel? How does that lifestyle make you feel? Maybe there's something that deeply inspires you or moves you, and you may not even be sure why, but maybe you feel like, oh, I don't have time to dive deeper into that or whatever, but that would be ignoring your intuition, because when something really inspires or moves you, that is a sign to move closer to that, because that is a reflection of one of your deepest desires and passions. When you ignore your intuition, you become fragmented because you're being pulled in opposite directions. Like, there's a part of you that's pulling you closer to your true self, but then a part of you that's pulling you farther away from it. I can't tell you how many times I've felt like I'm being split between who I really am and this person that I'm supposed to portray to the world. This happens often at my job. The job that I currently work at is not one that I'm passionate about in any way, shape, or form, but it just is where I'm at on my journey right now, and that's okay. I fully accept that. But it's a very good example of a place that very much fragments who I am as a person. Outside of work, I get to fully be myself and invest my time in my passions and express myself and all of that beautiful jazz. But at work, I'm very much confined to this certain way that I'm supposed to act and the certain way I'm supposed to be, and surrounded by people who really don't understand me as a person and whatnot. But that's just an example of how not following your intuition can cause you to become very fragmented. And when this happens, that creates stress, that creates unhappiness, and it creates unfulfillment. That's the big key word here, I think, in my opinion, when we're talking about the importance of listening to our intuition, is fulfillment. Now, you might be thinking, Sierra, I know what you're talking about. Like, I get it, I think, but what kinds of situations are you talking about when I really need to listen to my intuition? Like, how does this reflect in my everyday life? Well, it reflects in almost every decision that you make, right? A huge one, often where people feel very disconnected from their intuition and from their soul's purpose and unfulfilled, can be career. Another very big one is relationships. This happens so often. We may get into a relationship, it may be working for a period of time, but then after some time, our intuition begins to tell us, okay, I think this isn't really working out anymore. It might be time to move on. Maybe we're different people now. But this is a huge one where people will continue to deny their intuition, unfortunately, is in relationships out of fear and out of comfort and out of security, out of insecurity, low self-esteem. The thing about that is you think that you can ignore your intuition, but then it just gets louder and louder, and you can no longer ignore it. You can no longer deny it. As hard as you try, it's not going to leave you alone. It begins to shout at you, and it will continue to get louder until you listen, because you're meant to be fulfilled. You are meant to thrive on this earth, and you are meant to be your true authentic self and to live a very fulfilling existence. And the only way to do that is to listen to your intuitive guidance. Other examples of when our intuition may become very loud is when it comes to lifestyle decisions, maybe where we choose to live, who we choose to spend our time with, what we choose to eat and put in our bodies, just how we live our life in general. Decisions, big and small. One of my first experiences of getting in touch with my intuition is very profound to look back on. So I'm gonna bring you back to when I was in high school. And when I was in high school, wow, I haven't talked about this in a long time on my channel, but like this makes me really happy that I'm talking about this again. Back when I was in high school, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And everyone around me always knew, but I just could not figure out what I wanted to major in. I didn't even have different options in my head. I just truly had no idea. But I still remember to this day this particular moment standing in my kitchen, and I tweeted, it was something along the lines of, there's no one career or major that sounds appealing to me. Maybe it's because I'm meant to do something different. And I remember up until that moment, I had always thought that there was just something wrong with me. Looking back on that, I remember that kind of being the first moment when I was like, maybe there's not something wrong with me. Maybe I just want something different. And I think that was the first time that I began to actually get in touch with my intuitive voice that had been trying to speak with me this whole time, but I was so disconnected from my true self at that time. Another example of this is maybe you've been hanging out with the same friends for a while, doing the same things, and those things just aren't feeling right to you anymore, and you might not really understand why. Like maybe going out and drinking or doing whatever you do with those friends just doesn't make you feel well anymore, and you're desiring for a different life. You're desiring for more meaningful connections and more quality time with people. That would also be your intuition. Maybe you're longing to move somewhere and you can't really explain why, but you just have the knowing that you are meant to be in this particular place at this particular time. That would be your intuition. Maybe you have a career goal and it doesn't make sense to anyone. It hardly even makes sense to you how you're ever going to achieve that, right? But you just have this inner knowing, or this inner knowing that's just telling you to try, regardless of the outcome. So those are some examples of very strong intuitive nudges. They often may not make sense. They often may be terrifying, right? When something is out of alignment, whatever it may be, you feel that in your body, right? Your heart feels heavy, or you feel like there's a burden on your shoulders. You literally physically feel when things are in alignment with who you truly are and out of alignment with who you truly are. And that is intuition. Okay, so we've talked about the mindset of intuition, but what's very profound is that there have actually been studies done on this that show us that the heart has a mind of its own. There was this study where people were shown images that were meant to create certain emotions within that person. So some of the images would create positive emotions and some of them would create negative emotions, things that made them sad or fearful, etc. Each of these images were shown 6 seconds apart, and certain organs of the body that either correlate to the heart or the brain were monitored. The fascinating thing about this was each participant's heart responded to the image before their brain. And even more fascinating, sometimes their hearts responded before the picture was even shown, creating whatever emotion, whether it was positive or negative, before they even saw the image. So that is proof that intuitive nudges are real. Our heart is intelligent and connected to our soul, and we should trust it. And that is actually just one example. There are more studies on this. It may sound obvious how to listen to our intuition. There's a reason why many people don't listen to their intuition. They may be so disconnected from their true self that they don't even hear their intuition, or they simply ignore, resist, or deny their intuition because they might think it means nothing, or they're scared, or whatever of the reasons that we talked about earlier. So with that being said, I'm going to share with you some tips that may make it easier for you to listen to your intuition throughout your daily life. Stop needing other people's approval or validation. Stop over-explaining yourself to people. We talked about this earlier. Everyone's journey is different, so there is no correct blueprint to live your life. Other people have their own soul, they have their own desires, they have their own intuitive guidance. But you are you, and you have your own heart's desires. Now, we've learned how intelligent the heart is, so I hope that that may allow you to trust in your heart so much more, and to trust even more into those daily nudges and thoughts and feelings that you get, and realize that there's so much truth and validity behind them. Also, take note of the subtle feelings, thoughts, and nudges that you have, because sometimes we do forget about them, because we literally have thousands and thousands of thoughts a day. So there may have been something that we've been thinking for quite a while, but it's been drowned out by every other distraction in life and every other thought. So taking note of those things can be very valuable, such as journaling. Also, allow yourself to quiet the mind and take away the everyday distractions. Moments every day of solitude and quieting the mind. We can connect back to our inner self. This could be meditation or walks in nature, journaling, or it could even simply just be doing your household activities, but without any distractions, without any music playing or listening to a podcast or something. Often I'll realize that I really am just filling my mind with so much stimulation, because all day I'll be listening to podcasts and consuming content and stuff, which is nice. It's fun. I'm glad we live in this day and age with all of those beautiful creations and whatnot. But I do have to just be in silence sometimes so that I can just connect back to who I am as a person and not be filling my mind up with all of these external ideas and thoughts. I just remembered one of my favorite quotes that really represents what I'm talking about right now is quiet the mind and the soul will speak. We should try to allow everyday moments of silence, even if all we have is 5 minutes. That 5 minutes can really help, especially when it's done every day. But whenever we can, it's also very refreshing to allow ourselves a whole day of this. If you set aside one day where you don't have to work on anything that day, and you turn off your electronics and you just simply live, go out in nature, or even just spend a day at home doing things that bring you joy, but without all of the excessive external noise that's always coming in, allowing your heart to guide you. Of course, it's also important to use logic in many situations so that we don't make detrimental decisions, right? But there's a very good balance between using your logic but also listening to your heart and being able to balance the two, not completely shutting one out for the other. And often we can listen to our heart but use logic to guide us there in the right way. And lastly, don't overthink every single thing like I do. Unfortunately, just go with that first nudge. Even when it comes to things like, what am I going to eat for dinner? Trying not to overthink our everyday decisions. That allows us to just start going with that first nudge and just listening to our heart. So yeah, when we listen to our intuition, we become so much more empowered and true to ourselves, to the point where outside people's judgments and perspectives no longer bother us, because we built this loving relationship with ourselves where we trust ourselves. So I guess I just want to end this video by saying, if there is something in your life that you deeply want to change, or something that you are deeply passionate about, that's deeply calling your name, whatever it is, please listen. Please don't let your fear or other people's judgments get in the way of that. There's nothing more fulfilling and inspiring than following our soul's purpose and living the life that we truly want to live. Whether it's following an intuitive nudge to move to a place that we feel that we would be happier in, or going after a career that would be more fulfilling to us, or leaving a relationship that is not serving us anymore, whatever it may be, listen to that inner voice, because that is coming from your soul. And you deserve to live a life that makes you happy and fulfilled, where you can fully express yourself and fully live the life that you desire to live. Thank you so very much for joining me in today's video. I really hope that this added value to you in any way, and if it did, it would mean the world to me if you gave it a like or commented down below, because that really helps support me in the YouTube algorithm and it allows this video to reach others who need to hear it. So if you are also on a journey of healing, or you'd even just like a safe space to come back to every week, I would love to have you here. But other than that, I really hope that I see you in my next video. Blessings to you all.